Alright, what's up, y'all? So this is part two of my testimony, and we're gonna be talking about relationships, the relationships that I went through, because that's a connection to my testimony, and there's gonna be some things that's said that you guys may not know about in details. You may know a little bit or something, but you may not know the details, because this is a story that I haven't shared. So let's jump right in. Started high school, then I'm gonna work my way up. High school, I got in a sense, reputation of being, well, my friends from high school called me a lover boy. But also with that, which mean I got in relationships and things like that, and was for the love and things like that. But I was also a heartbreaker. So when things weren't going right, I'd be the one to break it off. Except for my 10th grade, where I got broken up with, and that's when I was like, ooh, I don't want to feel that no more. And that's when I began to be the one that breaks up with people. Not like intentionally, but as far as, I'm not saying that I got in a relationship to break it off, but I'm saying that when it didn't work, I would be the one to be like, yo, this ain't working. And I was always faithful to the person that I was with. I wasn't cheating or doing nothing like that. If I wanted to like end it, I would end it, and then I would go do whatever. I wouldn't do it while I was in a relationship. So grew up talking to different girls, and always just like talking to girls or having a girl to talk to and things like that. So I was never against relationships or anything like that. I was always pretty much for it. Like I said, with that, there were some people that got hurt in the process of me growing and things like that. Girls that I cut off, or girls that I was like, this ain't gonna work. And I didn't look backwards. Like, I would just be like, on to the next. And that was my mindset. And like I said, I'm gonna be completely real and honest with y'all. I'm not going to paint a picture that it's not. So yeah, I was pretty much the one that falls and then be like, all right, I'm good, and move on. So I had, in a sense, a trail of women that I heard or whatever. I got saved in 2016, and I told God, like, I don't want to hurt any other woman. Like, I don't want to hurt nobody else. Like, that's, I realized that it was wrong, and I was like, all right, I can't do this no more. So I began to focus on myself, and as I began to focus on myself, I ended up talking to a girl so I'll give y'all the backstory. So this girl was from my middle school. So in middle school, I was a little dude, like, I was short than a mug, and I would shoot my shot, for some reason it was always girls that was taller than me, but it was a girl that was either 1 or 2 grades older than me, and I would always be shooting my shot, and it'd be getting blocked, like, one trying to give me the time of day. So I'd be like, all right, one day, like, and that's how I felt, whatever, like that. But I was like, all right, it's whatever, and we didn't end up talking after that. We didn't stay connected from after middle school or anything like that. So Facebook was where, so this is how it happened. Like I said, I got saved, and I'm focusing on myself, and I like music. I'm into music and things like that. So I comment on the young lady posts, and I won't say names. I only say my wife's name, but I won't say the other girl's name, just out of respect and things like that. And by the way, I hope she's doing well with everything that she's doing. I don't know, but I just hope that she's doing well. So, because I just want to make sure that y'all know that no ill will, everything's good. I'm just sharing my testimony. So, on to this. We end up, I end up commenting on her status about music and things like that, and we end up talking, and then, but the funny part is she stayed in Arizona. So now I'm a kid who is saved, moving in a different path, trying to be right and do right by people and things like that. And I end up connecting with a person that became my friend, and then eventually became somebody that I was in a relationship with. So how that started, like, we just was talking or whatever like that, and we just began a relationship, and it was a long distance relationship, something I never did before. So this is untapped territory, and the person happened to be a believer, like me, had just became saved and was a believer and trying to follow God's will and things like that. So that was a process. And then during this time, like, God, like, my process was really quick. Like I said in my past episode, God started working with me right away. He started teaching me how to evangelize the people, how to win souls, how to talk to people. And just before I really knew what I was doing, I was out there, like I said, at juvenile centers, going to people's churches and just sharing the gospel. I wasn't even sharing my testimony and things like that to just try to reach people, try to touch those people that needed to be touched. And so during this process, I am growing at a rapid pace. Like, it is so quick. And I'm in a long distance relationship, and we're trying to figure things out. And the young lady that I was with at the time, she had a kid. So now we go, I'm in Detroit. The person I've talked to is in Arizona, and she has a kid. So these are all things that that's on my shoulders and things like that. So it's all different things that I have never experienced. So end up talking and going forward, and the relationship at the time taught me a lot, because we were following, wanted to follow the book. We didn't want to have sex or do anything before we got married and things like that, because like I said, it was a relationship that we were taking serious. So we were talking marriage and all type of stuff. And so, like, it wasn't a bad relationship, like, and I just thank God for that it wasn't something that was like terrible. Like, it was actually a relationship where I learned stuff, and I'm sure that she learned things that we both took on to our new relationships, if she's in a new relationship. But so it was good, and so from that, so basically we just began to talk and communicate from long distance, and a lot of times it was just FaceTimes or stuff like that, stuff that you do to try to be connected, so for anybody that wants to engage in a long distance relationship, I want to give you some keys. communication is most important. Um, Trust. It's impossible to have a long distance relationship without trust. Like, it's impossible to have any relationship without trust. Like, it just doesn't work. And that was something that I had learned. So I felt like in this process, I learned how to. I learned what I need. I learned that I have to have someone that I trust, that I can communicate with, that I can be vulnerable with, and things like that. And I learned those things through that relationship. So the relationship lasted for I want to say 7 months, but I have to share the different things that was in it. So, all right, this is what happened. Like I said, I went to Saltmine, got saved, ended up getting in a relationship, and also at that time I started my ministry, Hope Medicine. So I'm a rapper. I'm rapping. I'm starting a ministry. I'm learning how to walk with God, and so it was a time of just a rapid time, and it was a good time for me because I was growing. So during this time, God would give me different signs, and the thing that made this relationship not go forward was I was moving very quickly in my walk, and the person that I was with at the time wasn't moving as quickly, and it started to be more of me dragging the person along than the person walking with me, and that's tough. So for anybody, make sure that you and the person that you with are on one accord, that you are walking together and you're not dragging that person along, because you can do it for a while, but eventually you get tired and it's just not good for you. It slows you down. It's going to slow you down in your purpose. So the person that is for you won't slow you down in your purpose. They're going to allow for you to they're going to speed your process up. So if somebody is slowing you down, then that's probably not the one that you need to be with. So that was one sign for me. But I think in a sense I was in love with the story. I thought it was like one of those, sometimes we look for that story. So like, oh, this is a good story. This is God, this is God's will, because the story sounds good, and it's funny because everyone asks, what's your story? How did y'all start talking? Everybody asks questions like that, and if you just give them like, we just ran into each other, people will be like, boring. So I felt like the story was also something that I connected with, and it was like, all right, I feel like it made my ego, it was like striking my ego that it was somebody that I wanted to talk to when I was younger, and my shot was getting blocked, and then once I got older, that person ended up liking me. So it was like, oh yeah, now like that song, back then they didn't want me, now I'm hot, they all on me. So it was something like that that I felt, and I actually began to love the person. So of course it's like the beginning stages and things like that. I wasn't that deep into I was a new believer, so my love didn't run as deep as it runs now for my wife, of course. And but it was there. So So with that, so my wife currently, um, at the time, like I said, I was in a relationship, so I wasn't looking for anybody else. I came in there in the sought mind looking for God, plain and simple. I needed work. I need to be worked on, and I end up getting in a relationship with somebody from Arizona, somebody in Arizona. So I was really like focused on that. I wasn't focused on anybody else. And the first time that I had, I don't remember what month it was, but I was working on an album and I needed some help. So I ended up talking to my wife. Talking, look, this get kind of confusing. Okay, look, I was talking to Alicia, and y'all know that's my wife, but at the time she wasn't, of course, and we wasn't even talking or anything like that. But I ended up asking her, could she do a poem for me on my album? Could you be a part of my album? And that's originally how I got her number. So it wasn't that I was like trying to hit on her or anything at that time. It was just I was trying to get this album done, and I knew she was a great writer and great poet, and I wanted her to be on it. So, but I didn't. But it, she had feelings for me before I had feelings for her. So at that time, it was strictly business for me. And I, wasn't necessarily the same for her. I feel like she wanted to help me, but she had feelings for me. So that's how me and my wife first connected, had some type of contact, because we went to the same church. So with that, that's when after that, as I go along with the relationship that I was in, God would just give me different signs, and things it wasn't bad. Like, we had times, like, we didn't argue that much, but when we did, it would be bad. Like, we just wasn't on the same page. And as I continued to grow and evolve, it got hard to drag this person along. But I was battling a will of mine and God's will. And so throughout that was my constant battle. And because I thought it was God's will, and that was the youth in me, I couldn't figure it out. And we would run into different issues and things like that. And I remember India ended up, which is one of our friends at church, she ended up having a dream where she had a dream about me and Alicia, which is my wife now. And at that time, we wasn't married or dating or talking or anything like that. But she ended up having a dream about us, and she ended up telling me. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. So at that time, I'm in a relationship, and at that time, I'm not dumb. I knew that Alicia liked me, but like I said, I was in a relationship, and there are other people that were kind of trying to nudge that on, and my thing was, nah, I'm in a relationship, and that's not what I'm doing, and things like that. So that was my perspective, and I'm gonna let her have her perspective and things like that. Not on this episode, but she will get to tell y'all her side of the story. But that was my perspective. And so in a sense, I would kind of it was kind of awkward because of the outsider, the people that were like kind of engaging it on and stuff like that. And I'm like, nah, I'm sorry, I'm in a relationship. Y'all gotta chill, you know. And then I didn't at that time have a connection or anything with her. We didn't talk at all or anything like that. And like I said, I was focused on the person that I was with and my mission for God. And after that, when she told me the dream and things like that, I was like, oh shoot, you know, like what does that mean, you know, like and I even remember having talks with the homies, like, you know, like what you think, what's, you know, and things like that. So on that, so after that, I ended up, I was an open book, and I even told the girl that I was with at the time that somebody had that dream, you know, and it was like, I don't know why I did that, but that's how I was, and then it was like a uncomfortable couple days, and then I was like, I still want to be with you. That's I don't believe that's the will. You know, I believe I'm still supposed to be with you and things like that. And that's what I told the girl at the time, and we ended up still being together. So this whole time I was battling between my will and God's will. And it came to an end this one day. Listen, and y'all gonna be, some of y'all may not believe it, but this is actually what happened. And if you don't believe it, I hope that you believe it after you hear it. This is what happened. So I had got into an argument with the girl at the time, and we end up butting heads and things like that. I don't remember like verbatim the argument. We got into it and things like that, and then we end up going to sleep or whatever like that, and not resolving anything, but end up going to sleep. And I woke up early in the morning, and God starts talking to me, and he was speaking to me in his audible voice, God's audible voice. He said, Brandon, it's either your will or my will. That's what he said in my ear, loud. Like, if you haven't heard God's voice, for me it sounded like thunder. Like, it sounded like a strong male, like, it's really unexplainable. Like, it was just so, it was loud in my ear. And I was a person of like, all right, I need confirmation, you know. So I go on Facebook, right, and the first video that I get to says, God will is stronger than your will, so you have to choose to do his will. At that point, I'm like, what? So I'm at this road, and I'm like, okay, I believe that I have to break up with this young lady after 7 months. And like I said, we were talking me moving down there and houses and all type of stuff. So it was like, you know, and I was in love. But that day after that happened, I was like, oh shoot. So I I sent a message to my pastor, and I was like, I got to speak with you. I just need to talk with you, get some advice. And we end up talking for like 3 hours that night. And I was just telling him what went on, like what happened, you know. And he was giving me wisdom, and he will always give me little gems. And I remember this one day. Shout out to Pastor Al, first of all, of Saltmine Church. That's a man that poured into me and continues to pour into me, and I'm just so thankful that I can be a servant to him. And so he would tell me that the person that is for you will fit you like a puzzle piece, and you won't have to try to fit it, you know. So even as me thinking it, I have to go back first. Let me paint this picture right quick. So look, I only seen the girl one time, cause she came to visit, right? And during that time, it was the craziest thing. When I tell you God know what he doing, he knows what he's doing. Like, she came over, came here, and we had a room and things like that, and we definitely didn't end up having sex or anything like that. Won't lie, we got close to it, but we didn't do anything. Thank you, God. But so at that time, I was trying to take her to see the people that were the most important to me, or the people that, you know, that I just wanted her to see. And like, everybody was gone. Like my homie Chop was gone. I forgot where he went, but he wasn't available. My homie D wasn't available. Like, even when I took her to church, like, everybody was gone. Like my pastor, first lady, ministers, brothers, and they were all gone. And but the person that was there was my current wife. So like, they sat next to each other. So, but mind you, I don't know what's going to happen at this point. You know, like, I'm in a relationship. I'm not attracted to Alicia at this time. So it was just, I was comfortable, you know, in that it wasn't no awkwardness on my part. And I even tried to introduce her to my grandma, but my grandma wasn't feeling too good that weekend, so she didn't see her. And I took her to my mom, and I could tell my mom didn't like her. And they say your mom know best. She knows the one that is for you. Not saying that she picks it out, but yeah, the type of connection, they gotta click for you to really know, like, that's the one, you know. And that vibe wasn't there. The girl was kind of shy and things like that. So yeah, so that didn't at that time they didn't get to meet her. And like I said, that was God's will. And at that time, I didn't know at that time, but I was like, dang, that sucks, you know. So yeah, she ended up going back and things like that. And we of course, I don't remember the date or anything like that, but that's how that went. So building up to this point, so at that time, talking with my pastor, and like, just realizing that this isn't God's will. After hearing his voice and it getting confirmed off Facebook, and then my pastors telling me that you're right, like, cause I knew what I had to do, but I just needed the strength to be able to do it, and the encouragement, and just to know that I'm doing the right thing. And that's what my pastor gave me. So after that, I called her and I began to tell her what exactly happened. God spoke to me. He told me that it's either his will or my will, and I have to follow his will. And at that time, the young lady was crying. I was actually crying when I was saying it, like, because my whole thing was like I said, I was in love with that person, and I didn't want to hurt that person, but I knew that it's not God's will, and I can't go against God's will. I can't do it because it's selfish. It's selfish of me to do that, on my part and on the young lady part. Like, I would stop her from receiving the person that she's supposed to receive, and I'm gonna stop myself from receiving the person that I'm supposed to receive. So she ended up hanging up on me, and then I prayed, and I told God, I said, God, and I was kind of mad at this point, because I just thought it was supposed to go way better, so I was a little, and then I was just hurt, so I prayed and I asked God to speak to her. I said, God, I tried to speak to her, let her know what you said, this is your will, and I just need you to intervene. I need you to speak to her. I need you to let her know what I was trying to convey to her. And I went to sleep so I wouldn't think about it. And when I woke up, I received a long text that said God had spoken to her, and she realized that I had became an idol in her life, and I was in the place that God needed to be. And it was, and basically saying, I understand why you did it and things like that. And that's what gave me some peace to move forward. And yeah, so after that, I ended up, we said that I told her that we could still be friends, but it was a couple of days after she had hit me up, and I just told her, like, we were too deep in a relationship to be friends. Like, I thought that we could, but I just can't, because I couldn't deal with hurting someone and knowing, like, stuff couldn't be the same, knowing that, like, ain't no point or even doing this if this not in God will. We can't really move backwards. Like, it just won't work. We gotta move forward, which means we have to stop talking, like, no type of connection. And I wished her well, wished her kid well, and just decided to go forward with my life. And at this time, I still don't know what exactly God will is for me. So but God began to open my eyes, and this is when God began to open my eyes. We went to Kalahari. We had a trip with the ministry, and it was a lot of couples there, and that's when I began to see my current wife. That's when my eyes began to open to her, and I knew that I wanted to talk to her, and I already knew that she liked me and things like that. But that's when I began developing some type of attraction to her. So, but I was still like, I don't know. I was probably like 2 weeks, 3 weeks out of the relationship, so I didn't want to jump into another relationship or anything like that. And I also wanted to make sure that it was God's will, and it was just I just started seeing her differently. So like, we didn't really talk that much out there at all, like just a little bit, but I knew what I needed to do when I got home. So like I said, mind you, I got her number a while ago, and that was just business, like I said. But she I ended up texting her, and this is exactly what I said. I said, what is your goals? Like that was my first statement, like question. I was like, what is your goals? And she listed out her goals, and they were like some big goals, some good goals, and I was like, okay, all right, we might have something here, So then when we just began talking casually and things like that, getting to know each other, and at this time she had been waiting on me for a long time, and I didn't necessarily know that, but she said that God had confirmed to her from the day that I walked in, so I mind that I was the one that she was supposed to marry. And so I just applaud her for even hanging on to God's will even through all that, because like I said, I was in a relationship, and that relationship lasted for 7 months, and she stayed faithful to what God had told her and showed her and things like that. So we ended up talking, and at first I was trying to take it like slow because I was still in a process of healing, and I believed that it was strategic that God allowed for me to connect with Alicia, my wife, and allow for my healing process to go faster, and allow for me to move forward, because I feel like if I would have stayed in that place, then not that I would have went back, because I'm not going against God's will, but I just may not have went forward like he would have liked. And I had to come to myself and move forward. And she was like ready for me, and I was still trying to ease my way in there and just get to know her and things like that. And I want to say, so I started talking to her in, I think I wrote it down, I started talking to her in November, and then we end up becoming a couple in January. It was actually January 15th. I bought her a whole bunch of gifts and stuff like that, popped up on her. And it was funny because she would put like so much pressure on me. In a sense, she would be like, look, like kind of like, hey, look, I ain't for the games, what you want to do, like you trying to marry me, like not that she was saying that, but that was how she gave it off. If you serious, then do what you gotta do and things like that. So that was kind of a battle in itself, because I didn't want to move too quick without experiencing the healing that was necessary for me to move forward. And we ended up becoming a couple, and in August I ended up proposing to her. So mind you, I was saved in 2016, the end of 2016, and I got in a relationship. I want to say in January, or probably January or something, somewhere around there. And that relationship lasted for 7 months. And then after that, I want to say that's November. So a couple months after that relationship ended, I ended up getting in another relationship. And then the whole thing why I didn't want to just jump into another relationship, because I didn't want it to seem like I didn't want it to look bad, because I know how it may look to people, and I wanted to let people know I'm not that person, from back in the day. Like, that's just not how I move. And I literally just following the wheel and just, letting God lead me. And that's where he led me. And I thank him for that. So we end up getting married. So after I proposed, then I want to say 10 months after that, in July, and that's exactly what it is. 10 months after that, I got married to my wife currently, and my wife forever. And it was the best decision I ever made. And so we all together, that was 17 months, about a year and a half, that we talked and got to know each other, and then got to the marriage point. It was 6 months, I want to say 7 months, until we got engaged, and then 10 months after that, the wedding. So I want to say that God moves quick. And then I also want to say that you have to listen to him. Do not go against his will. When you see signs, do not ignore the signs that you see. You can't, because they're not going to go nowhere. God's going to keep letting you know that's not it. That's not it. And the biggest thing for me was the walk with God. My ex didn't have that walk that I needed, that could sustain me. I knew where I was headed, and I had, in a sense, became a dad to her, and it shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't have to tell you to do this and do that and things like that. So I just knew that can't be it, so God prepared me for my wife, through all that, through the long distance relationship, because I developed a high level of trust. I developed a good level of communication and different things. So I just had the structures, I developed those things and was able to fit it to my marriage. And right now we're doing amazing, and I just thank her, and I thank God for allowing me to go through this process. And I thank y'all for just hearing my story, hearing how God worked through crazy things, how he literally spoke to me, and it was scary. Like, I was scared. I was like shooken. I was like, yo, did anybody hear that? And I couldn't really. And then when I would tell people, they're kind of, if you tell somebody that necessarily don't believe, then they're like, what? He did what? But I just had to, share it. But it was, like, Alicia came in, and her heart was just amazing. Like, my wife she just was, she wanted to make sure that I was good. She would take care of me and things like that, look out for me, and I could tell that she genuinely loved me, and that she loved God, and that was the biggest thing. I'm like, you gotta love God, and you have to love me, and you have to allow for me to grow, and I have to allow for you to grow. So and then I also have to, it has to be something where I can step out my comfort zone. If I'm still able to be the same Brandon, then that's just not good. I need to evolve, I need to grow, I need to gain wisdom and maturity. So that's what she allowed for me. So right now I can say, like, through all this, so I went from being that heartbreaker to learning how to care for a heart, learning how to treat a woman. So I want to tell those people who may have grown up with struggles and may be struggling now, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, just because you have done something doesn't mean that you can't find better. Like, and I also want to speak to those people who feel like they don't know if it's God's will or not. Stay at his feet. Listen to him. Listen to the signs. Hear the signs. And choose his will, because his will was the best thing I ever chose. And it was just, we just connected. And the biggest thing what taught me, and let me know that she was the one, that I needed, was just connection with my mom. She had, Pastor would give me gems, and he'd be like, go upstairs, just leave them talking for a while, and see, how they communicate. And the communication was A1. Like, they would just, my mom loves her, and that's how I knew. My sister loves her, and my grandma, and my homies and things like that, they, know that she's right, and that's what confirmed it for me. And I also knew that this was somebody that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. This was somebody that had their head on right. And I also knew that it's going to be a process, that the person that you choose to marry is not going to be finished product. And because I'm not a finished product, so there's going to be work. And y'all going to have to put in work. Y'all going to have times where y'all don't like each other, or y'all just getting into it and things like that. But it's all a process. As long as you stick with the process, stay consistent and dedicated to the process, it will pan out and it will work. So I also want to speak to those who may feel like they haven't found that person and they're kind of getting impatient. You're going to find that person. That person, either God's going to show you, and then that person's going to step out to you, or something's going to happen and you're going to find that person for you. And you're going to be happy, and you're going to love it. Love is one of the best things. One of the best things. A marriage is unbelievable. Just the process of it, even the times of not necessarily getting along, is still fun. So my story is like no other. I actually have my homie Micah. Me and Micah had got a similar story, and that's how I know that we mad connected. Like, that's my bro. Cause because we have similar stories. He dated a girl that was from Arizona. Now he dates Minister Chrissy, and they're about to get married. Shout out to them. But we got similar stories. I gotta bring them on, and we gotta talk. But yeah, it's a crazy story, and I wanted to be able to share it with y'all. It's, like I said, it's long, so that's why I developed a podcast where I could speak to y'all, and I just hope that y'all keep listening, and I hope that I can encourage and just open up and be vulnerable with y'all so that God can have his way, because he led me to do this one, and this one is, in a sense, out of my comfort zone. So if I may have sounded uncomfortable, yeah, but it's growth within myself, because it's easy to do the other stuff, but for men to talk about relationships and love and all that sticky stuff, sometimes it's difficult. So I just thank y'all for allowing me to give y'all this podcast of my journey from this to that, from something that that was good to something that was great, and just something that I'm forever grateful about. I'm forever grateful for the way God worked in my life and the way that he can work in your life. If God not in the midst, it probably won't work out, to be honest. God has to be in a relationship. He has to be in a relationship for it to work out the way that it's supposed to. So I just thank y'all for joining in, tapping in with me. I hope I didn't keep y'all too long. This is my testimony part 2, which is the relationships that built me up to this man. And I thank y'all. I love my wife. Shout out to her, Alicia Rowe. Yep, that row on the end of that. We have been married for almost a year. We got a few more months to a year, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And like I said, we still growing, still learning each other, and we'll forever be learning each other. But it was the best thing for me. So like I said, I thank y'all for tapping in with me. I hope y'all enjoyed the podcast, and I hope that I was able to edify y'all. So yeah, shout out to everybody that listened to the first one. Like, share, comment, tell people about the podcast, so that it may reach more people. And I thank y'all, and I love y'all. It's Hope Medicine. All right, y'all.